super snarky. Today, there's Lids the Twatosaurus. And
Alisa Star.
And we're going to be interviewing one of our friends.
Super
today.
Tyler Fragilistic.
That's a Super Tyler Fragilistic. And he's going to be weighing in on some of the burning questions that we have today. We're gonna try to respond on a different note. Usually we're pretty vulgar, and I'm sure we're gonna be vulgar this time too. But we're gonna use you guys today as like a confessional, right? Like we have some things that we need to get off our chest, and this is episode 3.
Yeah.
And it's like the third date, y'all. So you get to find out whether I really do shave or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I the fountain that I promised you in dates 1 and 2?
Right. So this is where we get deep in it. I have been thinking long and hard about a concept that I've been trying to work up for comedy, and for the fucking life of me, I have not been able to make it funny.
Yeah, because it's not exactly. I mean, it's sexual assault, so not that funny,
right? And so to clarify, guys,
oh my God,
what I
Tyler
want to talk
so
about today
Tyler looks so
is that we're in this Me Too era now, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that have came to light.
Yeah.
And I would say that sociologically, we have changed as a culture now, as far as our perspective of what we think may be appropriate of how to, breed. Have sex, hit on people, establish relationships, or rather, are we entitled to our regency without the offense of someone else's sexual wants and desires? Now, we hear a lot from the female perspective, and it's fucking valid, ladies. It's super valid. It's time to start telling men to fuck off when they tell us to smile.
Time's up.
Yep.
But we don't often hear from women that are trying to make up for maybe some of their behaviors that are in line with what we now consider what is consent. Right? Consent is a huge word that we hear a lot about. And one of the first things that comes to mind when we talk about consent usually is whether someone is able to make consent and how that's defined. And it has become more and more publicly noticeable that it's super not okay to get a woman drunk with the expectation of fucking her.
Whereas before, I mean, I was partying in the 90s. I'm 39 now. So growing up then, it was totally okay to get someone drunk in order to take advantage. If you liked someone, you drank with them.
Right. It was that social lubricant, and now we are in
and not just a social lubricant, but it made it more possible for you to have your guard down, for them to have their guard down, for you to be honest with each other, for maybe you start drinking and sexy things happen. Was kind of the thought. It wasn't like, oh, now you're so fucking incapacitated, I can't really trust you to know what's okay with you and what's not okay with you, which is how I think people view drinking now too. So it's not just that consent has changed, because I think consent has changed, but I also think that the way we look at drinking has changed, and the way that we look at everything, drinking, consent, and then also our own behavior, because the thing is my sister and I were watching that Eddie Murphy movie. I don't remember which one it was. 1986, something action-y, right? And I don't know. I think it was a train. There was a train involved. I don't know.
48 hours?
Yeah, maybe. I think it might have been 48 hours. I don't know. But no, it wasn't. Was it Eddie Murphy or Wesley Snipes? But I couldn't remember. I can't remember. Anyway. Yeah, because I'm an asshole. But I was like, okay, I'm really enjoying this movie, even though Dr. Clio from ER ended up suing. Oh, it was Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, because she went on tour with him and he sexually harassed her. And I mean, in the 80s, that's some real deep sexual harassment because she won. And in the 80s, you had to do some fucked up shit in order to get money out of somebody. Because the consent, like, people looked at consent differently, because it was really hard to say that you violated someone when we thought women were asking for it all the time. Women were trash. Women were, like, their yeses and their nos meant less then, I think.
Well, they certainly weren't taken seriously.
Yeah. When they said things, we always just assumed that they were wrong.
Yeah.
We always just assumed that they didn't understand what was happening to them.
Yeah, or they invited it, like you already mentioned, like they invited it somehow, either by their behavior or by their dress,
or
the way they
by
dressed.
the fact that they were working in the entertainment industry.
That too. Yeah.
You know?
What else would you expect from somebody like that, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of the reasoning.
You wanted to be an actress.
Exactly.
You know, rape comes along with that. So anyway, so I was like, okay, well, even though Eddie Murphy did that shit, I'm still enjoying this movie. And my sister was like, she's like, you know what, Alisa, we have both sexually harassed people in the 80s and the 90s, so I feel like we can't judge him. And I was like, oh my god, you're right. Like, my principal, when I was in first grade, sexual harassment came to my elementary school to address my behavior, because I kept holding Jason Corona down and kissing him on the face. And so she had to bust out this binder that said sexual harassment on it. Mrs. Garvey didn't know what sexual harassment was until I came to school.
Well, you're a groundbreaker.
1986 was a dynamite year for this. So anyway, so, like, yeah, that's what we're talking about today, is that, you know...
Well, we're sort of talking about that, like, you know, I mean, the charming story of children forcibly kissing each other is one thing, but I can definitely think of times I've forcibly put my twat on someone's face.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I
mean...
I have had guys say no means no more than once to me.
Oh.
I haven't.
Yeah, Super T is here because he, we're flipping the script today. He's here because he has been made uncomfortable by women before, and he has never pushed a consent boundary. He's here to give us that perspective.
Well, and also because I want to ask him questions, right? Like, I want to try to understand the difference in perception, because one thing that we hear time and time again from attackers, or from the accused, is often that, well, like, I didn't rape her, we had sex, like, it was consensual. And when you talk to victims, and then you talk to the accused, often they have similar stories, but their perception of those events and how the other person responded to them is super different. And it got me thinking that maybe I'm that story for somebody. That maybe I'm that story of the time that made that guy super uncomfortable. And I hate when dudes laugh at me about that. Like, that's so fucking funny. How could a woman ever sexually pressure a man? So I was like, well, fuck, I guess I should start asking men. I guess I should start talking to them about all the times maybe that, I don't know, like, how often would you say in your life, right? Like, your whole lifetime, that a woman has physically asserted herself onto you without provocation.
Okay, so I'm in my mid-40s at this point. I'd say relatively a very small number of times. Let's say 10 times in my lifetime.
10 times? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So certainly nothing compared to what my sisters or mother or, you know, any of my female friends have gone through.
Right.
That being said, it has happened, and I do have an understanding of what that situation is, and it was clearly made to make me uncomfortable. It really was. It made me very uncomfortable.
And, I mean, would you say that the women that were involved in those situations, that their attitude was apathetic, or would you say that they were amused?
Amused.
Yeah.
Clearly. And almost always in a drunken situation. And this goes for gay men as well. That has happened far more than 10 times in my lifetime, where a gay man has made sexual overtures toward me, and even after being very clear that I wasn't interested or nothing was going to happen, continued to push the issue. And again, those experiences made me feel very uncomfortable, and it also gave me a greater understanding of what my wife and sisters and mother and everything have gone through. Every female friend that I've ever had, it was a situation where I didn't know what to do, and it really I certainly wasn't feeling intimidated, for my safety or anything of that nature. But I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do. And so I tried to write it out without trying to hurt anybody or hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
But I just was clueless as to how to conduct myself in that situation.
That's so valid, too, because we hear so often, usually from the female perspective, of, I just froze up. I didn't know what to do.
Yes.
Things came to me days afterwards
yes.
of how I felt differently about it.
Yeah.
Where I was just in shock at first, and then slowly I started to get really fucking pissed off.
Right.
I was like, oh my god, they were laughing at me, or they were amused by looking at me vulnerable and powerless. Right?
Yeah, or he wasn't into me, he wanted to dominate me.
Right.
Is something that I would think later, after an interaction had happened.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did that occur to you?
Not at all. No, not until this moment. No.
Okay. So when women or men have made you feel like sexually harassed.
Yes.
In those situations, you didn't feel like it was like an alpha thing. It was really just.
No, I didn't get that at all.
Okay. Because that's the thing, is there's that component in a lot of my sexual interactions or interactions period, is this whole alpha thing, is that men choose me sexually because they want to figure out how to top me. They see my assertiveness as a challenge,
Right.
and they act like it's a turn on, but once we start hanging out, they make a huge effort to diminish it and to stop it and to dom me.
And this is one of your this happened recently for you as well, is that correct?
Yeah. Work situation. I think that's what happened.
And the dating situation.
Oh, yeah, and the dating situation.
Yeah.
The last guy I dated.
All of a sudden you just weren't good enough to express your opinions or be yourself in company.
Yeah.
He kept whispering in your ear to calm down, et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera.
and he kept trying to throw me off balance, and he also kept correcting me. He kept correcting the way I was
Oh, I hate that.
And it was like, if you don't like the way I fucking talk.
Right, why are we together?
Yeah. Go find another fucking puppet. If
right.
that's what you really want our sexuals to do. I don't want to have sex with you, and then when I'm trying to tell you a story, have you correct me every fucking step of the way. Just fucking go home.
Right.
But yeah, and you, it just echoed a lot of other sexual situations. So I think that there's that element for me when men are sexually harassing me, where that dom thing comes up, that wanting to be in charge thing comes up. And I think that when I have sexually harassed other men, that dom thing has come up for me. It's part of it is just being like, you don't get to decide right now. I get to decide. Part of it is